What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in with Callie. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already. So, everything has been pretty much put out there about the Clippers as far as like what we're seeing through their actions. Their actions show they're not a good team. They're just a losing squad. They've lost 11 straight, and they just have not found their niche. They haven't found their way. And it doesn't look like it's getting any easier for them, even with the return of Kawhi last night against Cleveland, which is a difficult team for them because they're younger, faster, and got more size. And they're just, they have a lot more talent all the way around, I think. Younger talent, I should say. And the Clippers look like they've looked pretty much throughout the season. They've looked lethargic. They look like they didn't really have any conciseness in their offense or defense. They look like a lost team. They look like they just can't compete, with other teams. And as of right now, it's looking very dim for them, as I said in my last video. But, according to reports and everything that's out there, they might have reinforcements coming on the way. And I'm hearing about Demar Derozan. Demar Derozan on the Sacramento Kings, which has been, a disappointment on the Kings. Pretty much just the time he's been there. And I always felt like Demar Derozan seems to waste his time going to losing organizations or organizations that have not, been great in a while. I remember he was on the Spurs. They haven't been great in a while, obviously. And, just being on Toronto, that was a good team, some years ago, more so in his prime. And, he couldn't win there just because I guess LeBron was in the conference, as people say. I didn't think they were going to win anyway because I just don't see DeMar DeRozan being a number one guy that could lead you to a championship, maybe a number 2 or 3 guy on a team, with a number one guy to go to the championship, but not him being the number one guy. So this year he's averaging 17 points a game so far, and that's pretty much all the Clippers really would need him to do if they were able to make this trade happen. Now, trade talks are very, very high right now for DeMar DeRozan, and the Clippers, honestly, where they are right now, they might actually deal damn near anybody on the roster to get some actual help in there now, just because of the way the season's going, and the season's slipping away day by day for the Clippers. Kawhi just comes back last night versus the Cavs. He dropped 20 points. Him and James Harden played fairly decent, but it's just not enough. Zubac played good too, but it's just not enough. And when you look at the Clippers missing a Bradley Beal, you would think it doesn't make that much of a difference, but, they were factoring in his production to what they were trying to accomplish as far as a team and having that type of production. And Bradley Beal can give you 18 to 20 points a game, the same thing DeMar DeRozan can. And DeMar DeRozan stays more healthier, and his career might be a little bit more defined in some areas. You can make the case that Bradley Beal's is also, but at the same time, DeMar DeRozan might be a little bit more useful than Bradley Beal at this time, obviously, since Bradley Beal's out for the season and the Clippers are just waning. They really are. And it's looking very, very bad for the team. And they got the Lakers coming up tomorrow. That's going to be a tough challenge. The Lakers are playing very, very well, for the most part, the beginning part of the season. And, they're just trying to keep it going as much as they could. But the Clippers are trying to find their way. And honestly, I never really thought I'd say that DeMar DeRozan would help a team at least be help a team win a championship. And I'm not going to say that now, but I think he can actually be a piece that could help the team actually, get it back afloat, get everything back afloat to where they could at least be a decent team because, having all this onus on Kawhi with his injury history and putting all the onus on James Harden being the system and trying to run the system as he so proclaimed that he can, which always seems to fail in the playoffs, it just isn't good enough. They need more. They need somebody they can trust as a third guy to go out there and have big nights at times. And now, honestly, the Clippers made a dumb move, I thought, in getting rid of Norman Powell. I thought they should have kept him. But, I mean, that's the Clippers organization for you. They seem to make these same dumb blunders year after year and try to just swoop players in and out and think that's going to actually help the Clippers win when everybody knows you got to build chemistry for your team to be successful. And the only way your team going to build chemistry is to keep the same team for a couple of years. That's just how it goes. I mean, you could look at even teams where they had big threes. Sometimes teams with, superstar big threes didn't win it at first. Like the Miami Heat, they had a big three back in the day with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. They didn't win it their first year. They actually lost in the finals and got embarrassed and had to figure out their way and had to figure out one another and build that type of camaraderie where in pressurized situations, they know what to do, who to go to, and how to execute. And that's what it comes down to. You don't have to have a big three to be able to execute and do all those things, but you have to have chemistry amongst the guys in the locker room. And you got to pretty much keep predominantly the pieces together in order to do so. And I don't feel like the Clippers have done that enough. It's always adding new players year after year and trying to figure out how to put this together in like half a season or maybe less because, one of the players like Kawhi or somebody's missing most of the season. Then you try to plug them in the playoffs and go on this magical run. It just doesn't work that way. So in order for the Clippers to be a contender or a possible playoff team, they got to find a way to get somebody in there and keep them there. Like hypothetically, if they do get Demar Derozan and or Zach LaVine, which I'm hearing, Demar Derozan is probably the bigger option, the one they're actually going for. They got to find a way to keep him there. Keep this, Kawhi, hypothetically, DeMar DeRozan and James Harden, keep them together for a couple of years. That's the only way you're really going to build chemistry. If you just interchange players in and out the whole time, that's the reason why the chemistry ain't being built, and that's the reason why it just hasn't worked out. We can always say injuries is a factor because it is, but players get injured. But if you keep the same team predominantly and kind of keep the same base players there, maybe with the additions of a few odd and end pieces, you might can get somewhere. But when you're changing out star players and players with a name and, trying to bring in plug and play all the time, you're not going to win championships that way. And, like I said, the injury bug has not been on the Clippers side, but at the same time, neither has the chemistry. The chemistry hasn't been on their side because they just don't stay healthy enough or they just don't keep players long enough to build it. They just don't. And, maybe for the Clippers, if they bring in DeMar DeRozan, like I said, I think he can definitely bridge the gap, for them because it takes onus off Kawhi defending and shooting and playing at a high level every single night just to keep them afloat along with James Harden. It'll take some pressure off him. He'll have some big nights scoring and some scoring opportunities, and I think they'll be a little bit more balanced on offense because they got somebody who can, isolate just like Kawhi can, knock down big shots, and also, get into the teeth of the defense and make the defense work and play on their heels trying to defend him, Harden, and Kawhi. It would just be a very, very difficult task to be able to deal with them offensively. Now, the only problem is hopefully they don't have to give up so much, defensively to get a player like him because, teams, especially a team like that specifically, the Kings, they're going to look for some youthful, dogs, talented. And the two that comes to mind, Chris Dunn, and then you got DJ. Even though DJ is hurt, but he'll be back in, several weeks, hopefully, and be back on the floor and ready to go. So those would be two pieces that I think the teams like the Kings will be looking for, or whoever the Clippers might trade for or trade with or try to possibly make a possible trade with. They're going to look for players like that. And I will say, if you're losing defensive players and defensive pieces like that, it's going to be hard to win a championship if you're offensive minded, in which you'll be more offensive minded because you got the firepower offensively, but you lost players on defense that makes you work harder on defense with an older roster. So, it's tough for the Clippers right now. It really is. It's hard for them to see the light, where they're going in the direction they're going and at the rate they're going. But hopefully, if they're able to make the trade, I would have to just kind of have to go with it. I've never been a big DeMar DeRozan fan myself, but at this point, he doesn't look too bad, honestly, when you look at the Clippers roster from top to bottom and what they're missing and what they don't have and the chemistry that's lack thereof, and they're losing games the way they are at the clip that they're losing. Honestly, you got to try anything at this point. And I hate it for the Clippers to get to this point because, they could have made better decisions in the past, but we can't do nothing about that to make the team more formidable. But at the same time, we'll see what happens with this trade. And if the trade actually goes through, it's going to be a long shot. But if it does go through, hopefully the Clippers don't make no vast decision and get a player like him and give up all their depth. Because if they do that, well, they'll basically be in the same predicament that they're already in now.